Welcome to the Buy Box Bandits podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Buy Box Bandits podcast. Today we are joined by Jonah FBA, who does massive weight with Amazon wholesale, over 800K a month. And
casual 30K a day.
Bro,
no big
really
deal.
casually said that prior to hopping on the pod. Yeah. Interestingly enough, so we had Jonah back on August. He unfortunately had his main Amazon account shut down. So we're going to dig in on all that in terms of like strategies to avoid that and stuff, and also some advanced wholesale stuff. But thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
All our Spotify listeners are missing a show. Miles is wearing a sleeveless shirt today.
Yeah, well, hey, so I got the
you-
sleeveless on, right? And Jonah cut off the dreads too since last episode as well.
The YouTube viewers are just getting a blessing right now.
Yeah,
I know.
for sure. Cool.
Changes,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah. So do you mind digging in on what exactly went wrong with the suspension on the main account?
Yeah, sure. So for me, it was like something I've been selling on Amazon for a long time, and I've had multiple Amazon accounts for a long time. So I've always had that I operate and own a few different accounts. And it was something where under my first account, I would open up a case with Amazon and say, I just want to make sure this is clear and okay in terms of services with Amazon, like what's needed. And, different business. So completely separate EIN, completely separate business bank account and address. So for me, it was like my main account though was an account I've had since probably 2010. Like this thing,
that, bro. Yeah,
over 1,000 reviews, like 4.8 stars, something like that. So that's where it like really hurt me, was this account getting shut down. But how it got shut down was just didn't vet the suppliers well enough. So that's something where if you're getting into wholesale, like make sure you know who you're working with from day one. So we, in our business, we work brand direct with a number of suppliers, but we also just buy in bulk from distributors. And I'm at the point now where we were starting to outsource some of our buying. So, the team is scouting these leads, opening up accounts. And it wasn't to the point where I signed off at the test order until like I really got into knowing who the supplier was. So that was like our big fault was, and something now working in 2024 is just like taking back the buying, because in this business, there's so many wholesalers and distributors that you do have to be cautious, looking them up on Google Business beforehand and all that. But I sold maybe $5,000 worth of this one brand. Didn't get anything in the mail. It was just instant on the account, counterfeit with a test buy. And which, as you know, is like a seller, it's like the worst thing that can happen to your business. So every day we're fighting right now with the brand, just like, what can we do to get this removed? Literally we'll pay a fine for this. We've hired lawyers to help us in this regard, and something right now where the company just says it's not their policy to remove any complaints and for us, we can't prove whether it's authentic or not. So, we sold maybe 100 units of this, had no complaints, no returns, anything like that. But from the brand themselves, they bought a unit and then filed the complaint. So for us, all we have is our distributor's invoice, right? And when I go to the distributor to ask for the supply chain invoice, he starts, I don't know, this is what we have. I don't know if we can find it. And then eventually you start seeing, yeah, this guy's shady, right? So definitely a learning experience. I just say vet your suppliers 100%, no matter who you're working with, because sometimes a deal looks great and you hop on it and everything like that, but in the end it bites you. So just being cautious.
So there's a lot to unpack, and we'll kind of work our way through each part of that. But to kind of kick us off here, and I think this is something that Miles and I both get asked about a bunch from newer sellers, experienced, etc., is the multiple count thing, right? There is something to be said about being exposed to the platform risk with one account. However, it's very well documented that Amazon really only wants you to have one account. So let's dig into that. If you are looking for, and we have to kind of be very careful with how we word these sorts of things, because we don't want anyone to take what we say
I'd say
and
just avoid it for most, like the vast majority.
yeah.
If you're in a live
Yeah, no.
that question, you don't need multiple accounts, man. Like,
So like one of the
Honestly,
things
like you
too,
got to be doing
yeah.
a certain amount of volume to
Oh,
even
so
look
multiple
into
six
multiple
figure.
accounts.
Yeah.
Like I have guys that message me, "Hey, I'm looking into it," and they're doing $10,000 a month in revenue. You know, it's just you're not at the point where it's really needed. But for business perspective, it is. Like if you're an arbitrage seller doing decent volume and you decide to create a private label brand, then I would open up a new account because at that point you're gonna have a completely separate EIN and just keeping everything 100% separate. But yeah, vast majority don't even need to look into it.
Yeah, I think the ruling on it is like and this could change too. I have no idea the specifics, but I'm pretty sure it's like it's got to be a completely separate, even like computer. I think it's, or at least is the way some people do it. But
that's the thing.
like
Like
different
no
types
one
of
really like
products. Yeah,
a
that's the
lot of people speculate, but no one really knows. Like, is it the IP that they're looking at? Is it the Wi-Fi? Of course, obviously the bank and ID, all those things are obvious, but like like, obviously they have all of this information, but you don't necessarily know like what they're looking at, what they use. And of course, if one thing goes bad for one, like, and we saw this obviously with Avery, if he's listening to this, things can get ugly really quick. So I think what's a more worthwhile discussion is proactively avoiding all these sorts of things, right? And you kind of
100%.
alluded to it in your initial monologue. So let's dig into that in terms of like the sorts of red flags that we should be alerted, like mindful of as we're reaching out to distribution companies, and just how to be sure that people we're working with are really going to be right for our business.
Yeah, I'd say just having a website isn't enough, right? So nowadays, everybody can and should have a website if you're a wholesaler or distributor. But looking them up on Google Maps, finding actual reviews on this company, and then just doing as much research on Google as possible. So I'd say that's number one. And then two is just transparency and clarity with your vendor. So who is the guy you're talking to? If it's just email and he won't pick up a phone call, it's kind of just like I don't know how serious this guy is. Or if he's just somebody that I can't connect with outside of a computer screen because I don't know who you are behind the screen. And so that's the one thing with your vendors is, and nowadays most vendors are going to be on social media, right? So just making sure that they're an actual person, because I think there's a lot of like broker drop shipper, or not drop shippers, but like broker wholesalers who they might have access to a wholesaler, and they're just upcharging the cost and selling it to you. So making sure your guy has inventory stock, like can he send you pictures of the product you're buying beforehand? And then obviously, can he prove supply chain? So I always ask that now. If I'm placing a significant order, it's where are you buying the product? Like, do you have the invoice to the brand? Because if I'm not working brand direct now, I need to know my distributor can prove the supply chain somehow.
Have you
yeah.
ever ran into the issue where your distribution company is working with maybe a massive distribution company and they don't want to disclose that info?
Yeah, so I had one supplier, and I don't really mind this either. They want to disclose their info. I get it. So what he did was he had access to my account, and if I had a problem, he would log in and upload his invoice. So it was I had an invoice from this distributor, but he didn't want to, show me internally for whatever reason. But if I had a complaint on a product, he'd log in, upload it, and it would get cleared. But that was a very specific situation to where they were also, doing FBA shipments for me and stuff like that.
Yeah, it seems like that's a
Yeah.
case where there's definitely a lot of trust involved.
Yeah.
You guys are doing online arbitrage too. Well, first of all, don't buy anything on Telegram, right? That's a big thing in terms of supplier vetting.
100% avoid.
Yeah, typically you want to, definitely avoid that stuff. In terms of vetting OA site, just for anyone curious, you want to do very similar to what Jonah mentioned on the wholesale side, right? So like, okay, find this company, see the reviews they have, see if they have a brick and mortar location. Then specific OA stuff that's helpful too is checking out through PayPal. That verifies a lot of stuff. And then also if they're carried on the cashback websites, that's typically a very green flag too. On that as well. And then in terms of actually finding wholesalers, so obviously you've been in the game a little while. I remember us talking like a while. I remember you and I talking like 3 years ago about that stuff. I'm sure you're getting a lot of DM stuff. You put out a lot of good stuff on Twitter. Where do you see the starting point for people who had some success with OA in December and Q4 or RA and such, and they want to make that transition? Where should they be starting?
Yeah. So starting point is not dropping what you're doing currently, right? So if you've already found some success with OA or RA, keep at that. Just look at Amazon with the lens of a wholesaler's eye. So you're just looking to buy name brand product in bulk at a discounted rate, right? So I had a call with a group who was mainly RA focused, and I was saying, spark some conversation with a manager. If it's not some huge, brick and mortar, there's plenty of mom and pop stores. And I got a message a couple of days after, and he was buying a pallet worth, discounted rate. So he was probably sourcing from this store for months and just never, opened up the conversation to like, hey, who are you guys buying from? Who are your distributors? Like, can I place an order through them? So that, and then with OA, it's just, what are you selling currently? And each brand has like a specific size, right? So there's big Nike, Adidas, Colgate, then there's mid-sized brands and there's smaller sized brands. So as an OA seller, once you come across these sites that are selling the small to mid-sized brands, make a note of those and then try to contact them directly. Say you're already ordering from a distributor or a supplier, and you're looking to get a list of other distributors, or you're looking to open an account with them directly, because then you already have the data on those ASINs. So it's not some risky wholesale buy where, you go and place $5,000, $10,000 purchase and you get screwed, right? So you have data behind you, and it's an easier transition than I think people think. They just make wholesale this big thing in their mind, when really it's just who you're buying from and how you approach changes.
That's such a powerful point that you make about like using your own data for outreach, right? And it works on both the distribution to distribution perspective as well as OA to distribution, right? So say I'm buying a Colgate product. I buy about 2,000 a month at a specific price point. Well, that's information I can use to 5 other distribution companies that probably have Colgate, right? Hey, this is my price point. I'm buying about 1,000 a month. What's your price point? Can you offer a competitive price point? Maybe I can do even more volume. Shows that you have footing in the business. So it shows that you're experienced, right? You know what you're talking about. You're proactive, you're prepared, and you're just coming across an infinitely more powerful position than someone like, oh, what products do you have? I want to buy some stuff to sell on Amazon, right? The more strategic, the more prepared your outreach is, the higher you're going to convert.
Yeah, more leverage too. Like the
Yeah.
more ASINs you're working with or more suppliers, like you start leveraging suppliers and platforms against each other. So just broadens your network of access to get product.
The cool thing you can do with Smart Scout, you brought up the point about like the small to medium to large size brands. You can actually filter on like the revenue of the brand, right? So to your point, right, if you're after say small brands in a specific niche, right, maybe you're looking for camping brands that are doing less than X amount, 100, 200,000 a month. Well, you're within 30 seconds, a minute, right? You could have a list of those brands within that niche, craft up a pitch that's pertinent to that specific niche, and you're good to go. Miles.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. And then there's all types of limiting beliefs. People like, okay, what am I gonna say? Call and figure it out, right?
Yeah.
What if they ask if I'm selling on Amazon? Be honest. What if they require a commercial address? You figure it out, right? There's all types of stuff where like if you're gonna take the L on the first no, it's just not gonna work, right? What does it look like in terms of handling the objections that people are inevitably gonna get when they're doing outreach with wholesale?
Yeah, I think number one too is if you're the type of person who's even listening to a podcast like this, you're in a very small circle of the internet, right? So like Amazon for us, we talk about it every day. We know a ton about it. Reality is there's so many brands and suppliers who have no idea what's going on with Amazon, right? Because they just have the mindset of, oh, I list and I sell. And you see Amazon is so much more complex than that. So that's where there's a market for helping and providing value to suppliers too. So in terms of Amazon, a lot of people just don't know what's going on the insides. And I think that's something where you then approach them and can be the guy, whether working and consulting for them or buying in bulk and saying, hey, you guys, you focus on what you guys do best. I'll be the Amazon guy. And something where I think you can build relationships just based on you being the expert.
What has kind of been your rule of thumb for like follow-up cadence, right? You reach out to a brand, you call them, you email them, whatever they say no. What's kind of like your strategy there?
It depends. Like we're not doing a ton of outreach anymore. But that was the thing. Last year, I think this year the target is to target a handful of guys. And so contact a very specific supplier or vendor. So maybe we're working with a competing brand or supplier already. And that way when we follow up, it's they know who we are, we know who they are, because with wholesale, you can just throw a ton at the wall, see what sticks. You can send out email blasts to thousands of people or pick up the phone and call hundreds of people. And that's good. Like you're going to get a supplier that way. But also there's a good way of outreach where you target, 5 to 10 guys.
Very
And
specific
they're
quality
doing
quantity.
they're doing X amount. They're doing 10 to 50K in revenue, right? And I think I can come at them with a decent sized purchase order that helps them, want to sell to me, number one, and then I provide value to be like an exclusive guy for them. So in terms of outreach and follow-up, I think it's just who's your Amazon guy now? Because most guys, they have an Amazon guy, or they're looking for one, or they're going to need one eventually, because most brands, they're not doing it themselves. It's just too much to manage.
Sure. And then how do you think about the local opportunities with the stuff? Because the neat thing is if you're doing RA, like the better the RA is in your area, theoretically, the better the wholesale should be just based on population density and volume of stores, right? So I know you're in SoCal. And then a lot of people are in New Jersey, Florida, Texas, some of these super populated areas. They're crushing it with RA. They're going to outlets all the time. I bet there's a shocking correlation between the amount of outlets or the amount of RA in a certain area with the wholesale opportunity, right? So how do you think about the local opportunity with wholesale as well?
Yeah, so I always say start local. I think it's a way you can connect, number one. Number two, just keep your eyes open in your local area. So whether you're in a big city or a small farm town, like look at your grocery stores in the area, look at the retail stores. If you're out in the streets and it's like 7, 8 a.m., you're going to see distribution trucks on the street. You're going to see who's getting product, because at the end of the day, you don't even have to approach the brand. You just want to see who is buying product in bulk and from where. And so it could be a 50-mile radius from you where their distribution trucks would travel. It could be you just, like for me, I have a warehouse in California, but I have a prep center in New Jersey. So there was a time where we'd look at our map around that area and contact every distributor around that area, because same exact thing. To me, that's local to where I'm shipping from. So I don't have to live there necessarily, but if I have a prep center in the area, that's a way for me to leverage local as well. And just showing face. Like I think if you're in person, someone in your area, they're going to know you. And like I said, I think a lot of people don't understand Amazon. So if you just say, hey, this is what I do, you guys will sell to me in bulk, or we'll split profit, or I'll take a commission of what sells. Like you can be very flexible with how you operate your business.
I feel like another massive limiting belief with like the OA sellers who have had success in looking to get into wholesale is that sort of the prep center versus warehouse discussion. And you kind of alluded to, obviously you have one of both, right? But talk about you don't necessarily need a warehouse to get into wholesale.
No, like I run this business with some of my best friends from high school. Starting out, we rented a house. We had $1 million worth of product in our house. So just garage, it was closets, it took over rooms because we didn't want that overhead. We were waiting as long as possible before we got a warehouse. So I think you can go that route, but it doesn't have to be like, okay, I'm starting my Amazon business. Am I gonna do a warehouse or a prep center? It's just like, dude, buy some stuff. You're gonna quickly see your living room's full. And so you can either go the prep center route, or you can keep figuring it out and scaling the operation that way. So there's flexibility with how you operate and manage it. Sometimes you can do shipments from a prep center. Sometimes you can buy them and ship it to your house and do it that way. So I think it's a limiting belief too. I know guys that do a storage unit, right? So like, is that a warehouse? Is it just a storage unit? It's kind of the same thing. You have a place where you put your Rolo printer and, you prep and ship products.
Miles, Jonah had the OG group chat before all of us started talking about group chats and community.
Really, really.
Well, yeah, he did. He was in a group chat with his high school heads.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, true. That was my bad. Yeah, that's a fact. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah. Do you mind just? I'm curious about that. Do you mind breaking down like the org chart, like how many VAs, warehouse staff, etc. How you guys, delegate that stuff? I think that.
Yeah, so starting out, it's me and 3 of my boys. So we were doing everything from the house. I was doing all the shipments, I was doing all the listing, stuff like that. We hired somebody to come over to the house. So we were doing just FBM mostly. This was in 2020. Because starting out, I did everything FBM. I was FBM before FBA. I honestly didn't even know what it was. And then real quickly during COVID, fulfillment centers shut down, right? So FBA is like 3-week lead time, and FBM sellers are just getting every buy box. So just quickly saw like, holy cow, we need to get FBA. We're only getting these sales because everyone else is, not an option. So from in-house, we started with 1 person who did shipments. That's grown to, I think we have 5 in the warehouse right now. So 5 warehouse employees, and it's really awesome. Like, just something where you can provide help and jobs to family and friends too. For us, at least, like our first employee was a family friend, the lady who does our prepping and shipping. And then we needed more help, right? So she had 2 of her daughters come and just help with prepping. So they're not all, I think 4 of them are full-time. And then in terms of the online team, we have a head of operations, which was a guy who approached me on Reddit like early 2020, just a VA in the DMs. And he was mainly private label, which is funny. So I was wholesale, but I knew I needed help. I had no idea about hiring and online jobs, anything like that at this point. So he was my first guy, and it started where he provided a lot of value to my business too. And he's still with me today. His brother works with me as well. They're both from Pakistan, and they have a little office out there. And I believe there's 5 of them that are full-time, and they use contractors as well, but 5 of them.
Have you met them in person?
Not yet. So one of them is coming to America for the first time this summer. So I think it's hard to get visas for those in Pakistan too. I'd like to go out there. Like, I help them set up their facilities, so they have a nice little office and stuff. One day I'll go out there, but yeah, I haven't met him in person.
Yeah, 2 of my Amazon friends recently went to Pakistan, actually.
Really?
Yeah, bro. They were saying it was pretty neat, and everything. And then in terms of like switching up, so obviously we know like warehouse staff, EAs, etc. How do you and the boys actually delegate the work though? Because I could imagine that could be at least hard initially to kind of figure out,
Yeah, so I mean, we each have our branch. Like, I'm more of the Amazon team side of things. So I guess that's just day-to-day management of the Amazon. That was really how I started the branch of like e-commerce. One of the guys is more supplier vendor related, because just purchasing takes so much at this point, just replenishing. A lot of our products are replenishables, so it's just often purchase orders. And then warehouse, so that's why I don't have to be there every day. We do have one of our guys works in the warehouse, so he's not doing shipments, but he oversees the team and everything like that. So we like to see it as pillars. So you have like, the fulfilling shipment side of Amazon, you have the purchasing, replenishing side, and then like the outreach, new vendors, vendor relations side. So we have our specialties and lock in on that, and each delegate our certain, whatever's needed.
So if I'm not mistaken, you've started to, whether it be because of the account health issues or not, get into some Walmart stuff, right?
Yeah, we had been selling on Walmart a while now. Like back in 2020, we were doing decent volume. It was mostly like weights and stuff like that. And for the last like 2 years, did nothing. So we had gotten an account shut
Tested
down.
off the account and found the
Yeah.
password.
Yeah, it was like no account. We just started again, and now it's finding out what sells on Walmart. So not everything sells there, specific brands, and then figuring out like the volume of each product and everything. So it's been a slow start, but I do see a future with Walmart fulfillment.
So give us like a 45-second overview of like maybe some softwares that are helpful, some things to know if you're really starting to get into Walmart. Give us a very, very broad
I
stroke.
honestly can't give too much info there because it's still new to me. I just downloaded Bizmetrica from Jamar, his tools, so I'm gonna check
Yeah.
that one out, see
Oh,
how it
he
is.
owns it?
He's in it as well. I don't know the full
That's
details,
a
but
good
yeah,
dude right there, man.
talk
Look
to
up
him.
that episode. Yeah, Jomar, Jomar, for anyone who
Yeah,
wants to
shout
work
out.
at sales sauce. That's a good dude right
He's
there.
definitely way more into Walmart than me. Like we jumped on a call maybe a month ago, not that long ago, and I was picking his brain on it too, because he still does a little Amazon, but Walmart's for sure his focus. I tried Data Spark, it didn't really work for me. And then Helium 10, like I did the upgrade for the Walmart Plus and all that, and I think it's not that good. So
So
yeah,
I'm
TBD on the
sure.
software.
It's
yeah,
hard to even
TBD.
open like a Walmart seller account though, too. You know what I mean? Like they may really make you verify. Like, yeah, I think even more than Amazon and everything. But I've
Yeah.
been looking at some of my OA products I've looked at on there, and like the math makes sense. You know, like the math completely makes sense, and there'll be a couple sellers or one seller, and then it just comes down to it's like, okay, is the
Mhm.
fulfillment, as it should be, fees, etc. Which I think they have some sort of like maybe no fees for 90 days or something. That's pretty cool. Or I know
They
they
have
had
some deals on the WFS. Like once you
yeah.
send in product, I think they give you a discount on the first 2 months or something like
Something
that.
like that. Yes, that's cool. Okay, to get super tactical as we finish up here. XYZ person made 17K last month with OA, right? They live in northern New Jersey or Pennsylvania or whatever, right? It's pop in state in terms like just supply chain wise, right? What are they doing this week, step by step, to get started with this stuff the right way? Wholesale.
Yeah, first wholesale. So I would say if you're jumping into wholesale, think of brand direct as like the final step, right? So start with any wholesaler or distributor that carries a number of brands. And from there, you're going to find them either Google still works great, right? In your area, or retail stores in your area, and just sparking conversation. So don't think of wholesale and Amazon as this big complex thing for brands. Just say, are you guys selling online? Are you interested in selling online? And if it's somebody who is already selling online, try to partner with them. If you just want a distributor that you're going to buy in bulk from, no questions asked, I would show up in person to anybody who has distributor in their name on Google. So you can start niching down first. So let's say you made 17K in OA last month and you're mainly health and beauty. I would target health and beauty suppliers. If you did 17K and it was mainly grocery items, I'd target grocers, right? So start with what you know, contact local in person and grow from there. So don't be afraid to bring up the conversation, and you're going to hear no, because Amazon is a pain point word, especially for brands and distributors. So don't be afraid to bring it up, because it's always good to just have the conversation up front and see where you fit in.
We just have to establish that positioning. You have to establish the trust and the legitimacy, right? And like you said, kind of like disassociate from the Amazon seller that has gotten such a bad reputation over the past couple of years. Miles, want to bring us home?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Where can people find you on the socials, Jenna?
Yeah, Twitter and IG, just at Jonah Hodges _.
Cool. So
Yeah.
that'll be linked below. Check that out. If you want to hear more of Jonah's story as well, we have another episode. And then DMs are always open. If you guys got any questions, such, you feel free to hit me up, hit Garrett up, etc. And stuff. And keep up the good work, man. I was more pleasant than I expected, because I thought it was the only account. Actually,
Oh yeah,
yeah, I expected it to be a lot more of a bloodbath story.
we're trying to stay positive.
Yeah. Good.
Very rough Q4. We're staying positive though.
Got you.
That's it.
Sounds good, man. Take it easy, everyone. Thanks for listening.
All right, boys. Thank you.